All right, guys, welcome to the show. Today on the show, I have Liz Brazier. She's here to talk about her story, and she also has a podcast just like me. It's called Live Your Life Now. Liz is on the show today to, kind of dive into podcasting and talk about how that's been working for her in her business. So, welcome, Liz.
Great. Thanks so much, John. Good to be on the Voices of Marketing show.
Yeah, thanks. So, do you kind of want to share your story? Just talk a little bit about, how you got started with podcasting and your kind of, your internet marketing adventures and.
Yeah, I would love to. So, hi everyone. I am in New Zealand right now, and I do live in the US. And I have, in the last year, left a 20 plus year corporate IT role. So, really knew nothing about internet marketing. I worked for some of the largest PC companies in the world, and again, for over 20 years doing that.
Wow.
And I decided I really wanted to have a lifestyle business, and New Zealand, as I'm there right now, and that's where I'm from, that's where my family are from, and I knew I wanted to be spending more time in New Zealand as my parents are getting older. But I love the US. I lived in New York City. I've lived down the Jersey Shore. I just really love the East Coast. Not necessarily when it's January, February, or March. I have to be honest. The cold weather is not ideal, and it's summertime in New Zealand, so I'm following the sun. So really the whole dive into internet marketing was trying to figure out what was a lifestyle business that I could do and really embrace, technology and the whole world of online, and just thanks to, again, technology, how we can reach our clients and customers.
Awesome. So where did you kind of come up on the idea of podcasting? Like, where did that kind of come about?
Just by pure luck and falling in love with podcasting, to be honest. As I was trying to learn about social media or search engine optimization,
Yeah.
someone recommended Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income podcast to me, and I was traveling. I was actually in Singapore at the time, and I just downloaded it, and I had a lot of long plane trips, and I was going to Europe, and then it was sort of the whole world exploded of just all these different amazing podcasts around Facebook marketing or just anything. So that's what happened. I became a listener and just loved it because I like to be on the go, again, traveling, or even when you're walking or running. It was just a great way to really connect with people. And also, I was trying to write a weekly blog, and I was writing a weekly blog, but it wasn't my forte. I'd been in
Right.
sales for so many years, so I love talking and connecting with people. It just seemed to resonate with me.
Yeah, that's kind of I felt the same way. Like I sort of got burned out a little bit with the blogging thing, and felt like
Hmm.
it was easier to to do an interview and then maybe write something short about what I talked about, and then people could consume it by listening, and that's really where most of the content would come from.
Yeah, I agree. And when you're on the go, which totally ties into my whole brand, which is, lifestyle, being living anywhere in the world and accessible, anywhere.
Right. Now you said you started with by listening to Pat Flynn. Was there any other podcasts like that really inspired you? I know for me, Pat was a huge inspiration for me to start, and that's kind of I listened to all his episodes at the time. I think he had about 65, and I listened to all of
Yeah,
them in about 8 weeks. I just did two
yeah,
hours a day in my car commute, and then it was I learned so much from that. It's not like I could take notes while I was driving, but I knew a lot of the
yeah.
things already. But his stuff was so great, and the way that he just shares so much information for free.
Yeah, and not to make this a Pat Flynn love fest hour, but I was the same as you. I can remember walking through the streets of London and just going back to all his older episodes, and just continually listening. And then I really got into Natalie Sisson, the suitcase entrepreneur. She's a fellow
Yeah.
Kiwi, and she also has become a good friend. And she's also about freedom in business and adventure in life, which again ties into sort of what I want to be doing. And Amy Porterfield around Facebook, so I was trying to figure out a Facebook business page, and
Yeah.
Michael Stelzner, social media marketing, and then Michael Hyatt, this is your life, and Lewis Howes, and it goes on and
On and
on,
on.
John.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of those people, like I found Lewis from Pat's podcast, and I found Amy.
yeah,
I think it was just a suggested thing, like a fan page, and she just had a big
yeah,
following kind of thing. But a lot of these people, like they all connect in some way. So it's like and I found
yeah.
Natalie through I think a podcasters group, um,
Hmm.
and she had a free
Yeah,
promotion on her book, The Suitcase Entrepreneur. So I think I'm about a quarter of the way through that. I haven't read
right.
continued to read it for a little while, but that book I really like what I've read so far in it.
Yeah. No, definitely. So I really enjoy her podcast. So yeah, it's a great thing. So it was just straight away I wanted to do a course and get a podcast up there. So I think I started listening in May, and in September I had my own show.
Awesome. So, I mean, with your podcast, like for the people that are listening, I mean, what's your main focus with that? Like, what kinds of people are you having on, and like
Mm-hmm.
what are the things that you're looking for in the guests that you have on?
Yeah, no, great question, John. So I'm looking for, busy people. That's a generic term. We're all busy.
Yeah.
But talking to executives and entrepreneurs around how they, I want to say the word balance, but I hate balance, really how they integrate work and life. And my show is about helping people with less stress, less anxiety, and a
Hmm.
bit more, and a lot more energy management, not necessarily time management, but energy management in their life. Because my show is the Live Your Life Now show, and it's all about living life to the fullest now, not when
Right.
there's some perfect someday. So I just really want to inspire people with understanding how people are making their life a priority, even though they may have crazy, hectic schedules. Because what it comes down to is what's really important is right now, this moment right now, because we don't know if there's a tomorrow, what the future holds for us.
Right.
And so many times we're wanting to achieve the perfect job or relationship or body or some big, huge milestone, but it may never come.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it, and I think about that a lot too. Like when it comes to just doing things normally, like if I take time away from working on my show or doing other things, like maybe to play a video game or watch some TV, it's like, well, I got to do some of this stuff because at least, like, if I work all the time and just spend all my time trying to build up whatever, build whatever it is I'm trying to build, then I'm not going to have any time to enjoy, life.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a fine line. That's why I call it kind of integrating work and life. But definitely, John, studies have shown that you've got to take scheduled downtime and you'll be more productive, or, a break every 90 minutes or every hour.
Mm,
And you'll, maybe just a 5-minute break, but you'll get more things done. So, no, never feel guilty about that downtime. Just don't make it go on for hours and hours and watch TV every night and then say you're too busy. Because I always say on my show that busy is BS. It's all
yeah.
about priorities.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I kind of, for me, it was more finding like, okay, this stuff is all really supplemental to my day job. Like I still work a 9 to 5, and I don't have to be doing a podcast or doing anything like online. I could still be watching TV and just doing leisurely things in my free time. But if I stay consistent and keep doing these things, then it's going to build. And obviously, for me, that's shown to work because over time I've started to see results with consistent effort and time spent on a lot of these things.
Absolutely. Consistency is key. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, so what are some of the goals you have with like your show? Like, where do you kind of see things going in 2014, and like, what do you ultimately want to do with things? Like, do you want to create courses, or do you have any other
Yeah.
plans in mind?
Yeah, no, I do. So with the podcast show, I definitely want to stay committed to it. To me, it's my long-term strategy as a way to connect with people in my community and, drive people over to my website and, communication with the people that are listening. I have
Yeah.
a sponsor, so that was a goal, and I now have a sponsor, so that's exciting. Just as helps me with the cost, but also just put some more social proof behind my show. I'm
Yeah.
about to get to 50,000 downloads, so I'm looking forward to celebrating that. I'm pretty
Wow.
excited about that number. Everyone keeps the numbers quiet, but I feel pretty good about it. And yeah, so definitely continuing on with podcasting. And what I'm looking to do is definitely create an online course, but probably more in the July timeframe. First, I'm going to come out with an ebook in March. I'm actually doing a promotion in February, which is a free program around 30 days of now, because it
Okay.
really is about every day, being focused on what are you doing now in your life. And I've started asking a new question on the Live Your Life Now show, which is, it might be a little bit morbid, and you're a young guy, John, but
Yeah.
it's a question I ask, which is, what are you doing in your life right now to make sure you're proud of the eulogy at your funeral? So it's just a new question I've started asking. Really, it's important about like what are you doing now? Because
Mm.
you might be waiting for some big goal or big project, but it's really like, how do you want to be remembered, and what are you doing about it? So yeah, so I'm doing this 30 days and now to help people stay focused. Really simple, easy, actionable steps. It's free, And then I thought I would put out an ebook, around some of the things I've learned and some of the tips around that. So I've got a number of different ideas, but I'm still learning and evolving. Right now I'm pretty intrigued by Google Plus and where that's going to be
Yeah.
going, and it could be a great way to reach a community. And I can see you're very active in that, John. So I'll be stalking you now on Google Plus. I just connected with you.
Yeah, that's one of the few. It's funny because I find myself on Facebook more often than any. I have a good Twitter following, but it was actually mostly through an automation system I was using called TweetAdder. I used the system to just follow people based on keywords, and kind of by nature, people follow you back on Twitter. So I don't really do Twitter a lot, but I looked at Google, and Google I've found recently, because of a lot of the things with SEO, like if I were to search for something that you wrote about and you shared it on Google Plus, then it's going to come up in the search results. So it's almost like I'm seeing page one results because I'm friends with you. I'm on your Google Plus circles. So that's something that's really kind of intrigued me, and I've thought more about building up Google Plus because I've heard a lot of people talking about that, and I think I've seen there's a big traffic blog. Her name's Anna Hoffman, Traffic Generation Cafe. She has Google Comments now on her blog, so people can comment with Google Plus, and I think Google looks at that kind of stuff, and puts a little bit more weight. So it's interesting. I mean, it's just sort of for me, like I don't want to, move away from or dive into too many things at once, I guess, and that's always been a challenge for me. So.
Yes, I can definitely relate that good old shiny object syndrome. Newbie entrepreneurs or anyone.
Yeah, there's so many things, and it's really, I talk about it on all my episodes, I feel like, but it really is like a big, especially in this space, like there's so many things that you can dive into, and I'm trying to stay focused right now. I've got a couple projects that I'm working on, and I'm working on an ebook myself. Like I'm trying to get a Kindle book out there. It's turning out to be pretty long, so I'm editing it now. Had a couple interviews transcribed, so I'm working on doing some editing because it didn't come out quite the way I wanted it to, but
there's
that's
lots of opportunities out there. And I also do one-on-one coaching, which is my coaching package is no more some days, because I'm all about, not saying I'll do it someday. So my coaching package is no more someday. So I want to keep that going on because it has been a great way to connect with people and really understand what the challenges are out there as I look to develop, an online course. So but definitely trying to be smart around different revenue streams, and but there's so much to learn and understand as what I still consider myself a newbie entrepreneur.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've been able to monetize your show through, obviously, you've got the coaching, and I'm sure if you have an audience through your show, you could probably bring in some people through that. And then you also said you recently acquired sponsorship. Beyond some of like the future plans, are you doing anything else to monetize the show? Or?
No, I'm just talking about my coaching packages, and and that's about it really at this stage. I am looking at possibly launching some mentorship, but I'm just keeping an eye on all the different I see a lot of different mentorship programs out there, and I'm just not sure what feels right for me about connecting with people around living your life now, what's right for my audience versus what I see other entrepreneurs doing. So, I'm just figuring it out one day at a time, but that does interest me. What really interests me though, John, and I'm definitely going to develop, is public speaking. I think that's the next area that I want to move into, is doing some of my own workshops, and then obviously talking at other people's workshops and building from that, because I like to talk and I love to connect with people, so why not?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a good skill to learn. I know I took a college course even when I was going through school to learn like more skills about public, kind of getting yourself out there and being able to speak in front of a class of people. And even for me, that was nerve-wracking back at that time, about 10 years ago now. But I mean, that's a big thing to really, there's so many skills to improve upon. I know even for me, like with my show, I'm doing a lot of the ums and ahs and stuff like that. And it's, kind of over time, like I'm building the confidence, and I think there's a lot to be learned about that particular field.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And I think podcast helps with that, because you get used to feeling a lot more comfortable with just talking, off the cuff. But also, yes, we all have the ums and ahs. It makes us more human. It would be nice to have a few less of them, but I'll just say on purpose.
Yeah.
I love speaking. Like, it's not something that I have that fear for. You know how people, are very fearful of it. I
Yeah.
can't relate to that. I love it. I can't wait to talk. I just want to now make sure that I'm being impactful and adding value versus just, talking.
Right, right. Now,
That's
have
all very
you like done
interesting.
any speaking events or anything like that already, or where are you kind
I
of?
haven't. No, it's just it's on my goal for Q2 2014, kind of January, February, March. I've got some other things around my coaching, my 30 Days of Now, my podcast, and my ebook.
Yeah,
So, but I also am doing a number of guest blogs. I've got about 8 guest blogs. I'm just about to pitch to Fast Company and Entrepreneur Magazine. So I'm kind of just getting some social proof out there this quarter. And
yeah,
then in this quarter, I will also be pitching to some organizations to speak to because I know you've got to pitch in advance. So, I'm just coming out with a strategy. I've kind of just in the last week sort of focused on blogging, guest blogging. So I'm about to submit, again, I just did 8 guest blogs, so on different topics that
yeah.
relate to living your life now.
Sounds like
So
a lot.
then the
That
next step,
sounds
yeah,
like a lot of work. I mean, I know I've done about I think 5 or 6 now, and some of
yeah,
them I put a lot of work into. It just very time
takes hours.
get
Yeah, I
great
mean, it was
stuff.
good. It was good with the Christmas period being a bit quieter. I did work with a copywriter on some of it as well, so that certainly helped me.
Yeah,
So I think that was now the next step is to actually, talk, put some speaking requests out there. And if that doesn't work, I'll just run my own workshop. Just do it
yeah.
anyway.
I mean, it's
Live
all
your
going to
life
come with
now.
time. If you keep staying at it, staying with it, and if that's what you really want to do. I mean, if you learn about it, then.
Hmm.
Are you doing anything with like paid advertising or anything big with social media? I've noticed like some of these guys. I know before we started talking, like Michael O'Neill from the Solopreneur Hour, he's built like this huge fan page on Facebook, and I thought that was really interesting to see like how quickly he was able to grow a fan page. I don't know. Are you doing anything like that?
No, I'm not. I mean, occasionally we do a boosted post, but that's something I'm paying for. It's not like
Yeah.
I'm bringing revenue in to try and get some awareness about normally a podcast episode or something like
Right.
that. Or perhaps I do monthly webinars is another way, but no, nothing like the example you were talking about.
Now, what are you doing in your webinars that you do?
Yeah, so I do a monthly webinar around a topic to do with living your life now. So January was living your life to the fullest in 2014. My top tips and techniques because I'm not a New Year's resolution fan. I don't believe in it. It's just
Right.
it's just another time of year. So it's the top tips, but top tips to make the most of this year. And I've also done my top energy tips or around the Christmas, the busy craziness of the holiday season, depending on what you celebrate, but it's still a very busy, stressful time. How to keep more energy, or how to deal with difficult family members. So just depending on different topics like that. I did one on time management. If you're too busy to take time for a 30-minute call around time management, then you need to join my webinar. So I just make them 30 minutes, quick,
Yeah.
short, because I am all about helping busy people make the most of their lives. So I'm not into these hour-and-a-half webinars.
Right.
Sometimes I'll talk about my coaching package, depending how full it is at the moment. Other times it's just about, it's always about giving free tips and value away for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's something I've thought about too is webinars. I know that can be a very powerful way to, not
Mm.
only kind of captivate an audience, but you can really, a lot of people are doing it and then selling like higher ticket items like coaching services and other, training
Yeah.
courses, things like that.
Yeah, it's also helping me create more content.
Yeah,
And whether I use some of that, if I do it on a podcast, or I'm kind of keeping them separate. I feel like for people that make it to my webinar, I want to, give them some fresh content and not repurpose it too much on my podcast show. So I'm still playing around with that. I haven't really sent out replays if people can't make it. So I'm still figuring that out a little bit on the right way to do it. So, yeah, but I am really enjoying it because it makes me put the content together in a professional way. I use GoToWebinar. I'm trying to
yeah,
use a very professional tool so it looks professional and
right. Yeah,
yeah,
a lot of that's one of the most common I find that for the stuff I've watched.
yeah, yeah. You're right,
Now,
John. You're right.
what are I was going to ask, I kind of wanted to dive more into podcasting a little bit more because I know
Sure.
I feel like we're kind of all over the place, but that's fine. I like just learning about, I didn't know you did webinars and stuff. I think it'd be good for,
Hmm.
people to learn that, if they're interested in checking out your show, obviously they can join these webinars too. Um,
Yeah.
I guess, what are some things like you found, say, oh, I know what I was going to ask. With new and noteworthy, I know after that kind of drops off, like, have you found that there's been anything for you to kind of put yourself out there more to like kind of keep the numbers up and keep yourself seeing the high number downloads and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, you do see a decrease. I think everyone
Yeah.
says that. I've been pretty pleased with how it's kept not too bad. I've been trying to get on more shows, so making more an effort to be a guest on other people's shows.
Yeah.
I have been boosting posts, like about every time an episode comes out. I've also started doing more solo episodes, so I've got like lots of interviews in the bank with other people because I started doing every week a solo episode, and I think there was more about getting my voice out. But I was actually finding the solo episodes were actually very high in the downloads, if not some of the highest shows. So sometimes I think the community wants to hear your top tips or hear your voice. So I have been doing that as well. And yes, I think I've already mentioned the boosted posts. And I am trying to engage a little bit more Instagram and Google Plus and even Facebook, with an image. I just read Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vee to try and understand a better way to get that out and to use hashtags. Around I think I just use hashtags. I talked to Kate Courageous, who runs yourcourageouslife.com. It was one of my recent interviews. So I use courage as a hashtag, or inspiration, or motivation, or my hashtag is life now. So yeah, I'm just trying to understand different ways to get it in front of people. But it's definitely a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I might have to think about that too. Maybe doing some of those boosted posts. I haven't really. I find that like most of my friends on Facebook aren't really super interested in a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. But I have had some people reach out. Like I had someone recently say, "Oh, I listen to your show now, and I'm telling everyone at my work," and like just people out there that are finding it. But I've thought about building a fan page as a way to engage with the people who are really going to be interested in these kinds of topics, or marketing, podcasting, things like that.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. So I don't have a fan page, I just have my business page, so I just post on that.
Yeah. Now, what are like some top tips you might give for other people who might consider starting a podcast, or there maybe a few podcasts that you might recommend that people could check out, that they're things like that.
Sure. Well, I suppose top tips to begin with is, everyone will say the same thing around being clear on, who your customer is or who your target market is, and who are you talking to. I think also make it really clear in the title what it's about, or what the key message is. And I would invest in a decent graphic. There's a lot of podcasts coming out, and you can just see it in the iTunes, newsfeed, or newsfeed's not the right phrase, the banner with new and noteworthy and that. And a lot of the text is hard to read, and you do want a crisp, professional picture. I think that definitely does help. And then for me, what really has helped me is I did get some professional intros and outros done, and I believe that has helped my show get very well received and have some really good downloads, because it's got that extra level of professionalism. And especially when you're first starting out, you don't know a lot about audio, you are going to make mistakes, and it's going to be pitchy or something. Something's not going to be that great, but it just sort of added to the overall brand. So I feel like the graphic and the intro and outro really added to it. And the one thing it did, John, is it actually also made me believe in myself, because I've got a really stunning graphic. I've got great intros and outros. I better step it up and be professional, and this is a viable business. So
right.
Yeah, that really helped to change my mindset versus like, what am I doing trying to do a podcast? Who am I? Right. Which is not the case at all. Who are we not to do it? Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of puts you in like a little bit more of a position to look like you're kind of you're in a good place. So the people that are listening look at you as like, oh, she really knows what she's doing, and
Yeah, and she's taking it seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just, hey, here I am giving this a go. And maybe that's some people's voices and messages, but there's a lot of people joining into podcasting, and there's huge opportunities out there in the world. We always ask people with our communities, have you heard of podcasting? People we meet day to day, I have a podcast. I'm like, podcast? Yeah, I've kind of heard of that. So there's great opportunities, but there are a lot of podcast shows that are launching every week, and definitely take advantage of those 8 weeks and new and noteworthy in iTunes, and really promote that success and put it out there, and take screenshots of you being in the top 10 or number 1 in your area. I did that, and I think it helped add some more social proof to the show.
Right, right. Kind of showing that I don't know if what it was particularly, but I ended up when I launched mine, I didn't get it into new and noteworthy. I think
Oh,
possibly could have been from my intro or maybe some of the audio quality. I know my first episode even got cut off in the middle of it because I had a recording problem, but it was still about
mm,
40-50 minutes, so I kept it as is. But I feel like maybe some of those things could have caused that to happen.
yeah.
But I
I
mean,
mean,
since then
definitely, yeah.
I've learned a lot, finding like, okay, there was a problem with this software. I'm not going to use that anymore, or, I'm going to use
Yeah.
another method to, maybe change up my intro, which is something I recently did. I had one recorded. So this will be
Hmm.
one of the first episodes I'll have that intro with. It's a lot more professional,
Awesome.
things like that, I
Yeah.
think will
And
help a lot.
one thing I do as well is I always make sure when I'm about to release the guest episode that I put together 2 or 3 click to tweets, which I share with the guest that was on the show. And I also always make sure I do show notes as well.
Yeah.
So, up to them if they want to share it. But I do find the click to tweets useful. And I can also go back to them and easily, share them in weeks or months, gone by.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think I read the same thing somewhere that they'll send that out after the show. If they do a
Hmm.
podcast episode, send the guest the click to tweet, and then it's an easy way for them to just share the post.
Share it with their community. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Now, in terms of I guess like learning when you started out, was there any particular like course you took, or did you pay for training and looking into things like equipment and understanding like how to set up recording and a lot of these things? Like, how did you go about learning all those things?
Yes, no, all the ways you mentioned, I think, John. First I looked at Pat Flynn on YouTube. He's got some free videos.
Yep.
Then I think it was John Lee Dumas's book. I downloaded on Amazon Kindle for just a few dollars. I don't think it was anything too crazy. And then I purchased Podcasting Pros, I think it was called by a lady called Chris Gilbertson. It was about 197. It wasn't too expensive. There's a number of other courses out there, but I didn't want to spend too much because I was still
Yeah.
sort of thinking, can I actually do this? So all those things, I think Natalie Sisson also put out a free guide around, uh, podcasting. So those things I was sort of reading or doing a course, and that just helped me with what microphone to buy. I use a Blue Yeti, and what software. I use Audacity because that was just simpler and easier. I'm also a PC user. A lot of things can be a bit frustrating because a lot of times it's mentioned about what's on the Mac.
Right.
So yeah, and then just recently I did join John Lee Dumas's podcast Paradise,
Right.
and that's been great to connect with a number of people. I don't use Adobe Audition, I think is what he recommended. It's just a little
Right.
bit
Right.
more than I want to take on. But yeah, so just different things like that. And yeah, I'm still learning too. I think the key is to always be learning.
Yeah.
And I used Isabella and Mike Russell from Music Radio Creator for the intros and outros.
Oh, okay. So was that
Mm.
like I know a lot of people might go to like a Fiverr or something like that. Was it
Yeah.
fairly inexpensive to go through,
No,
or
no,
they actually
no, it
charge
wasn't.
quite a bit for?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really good value for what they offer.
Yeah.
I had an intro and outro. I've got a quote of the week, an intro before I do the interview, so I thought it was a good. They had a package with Cliff Ravenscraft, who's also known as the podcast answer man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was 400 or 500. I mean, it wasn't thousands and thousands, but it
Yeah.
was a sizable investment. And versus say, Fiverr, where it can be probably more than $5, but maybe 20 or nothing too crazy.
Right.
So
Right.
I decided to go with that just as I was still getting clarity around my brand and messaging, and that helped me. And I also wanted some different accents and voices because I did want to bring some American voices into it because I'm a New Zealander, but I am
Yeah.
I'm an American citizen. That's where most of my audience is from. I lived most of my life in America. So, I wanted to kind of bring in also an American accent, my accent, and I also have an English accent because I want an international audience because my business is an international lifestyle coach. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
that's why I went with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Uh,
I probably wouldn't have even thought of it. I found for my intro, I was able to get, I don't know if I feel like he's kind of an up and comer, but he's got a lot of experience with radio. Is Jeff Brown, who's got the Read to Lead podcast.
I know of Jeff Brown, but yeah, no, I didn't. I forgot that he does that. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
he did my intro for me, like the
Oh,
kind of like
cool.
welcome, and he has a really great radio voice, so I thought he would be a perfect fit and just very,
Perfect.
you know, so it's all
And that's
about
when yeah, you don't need to overcomplicate it. Just a
yeah,
quality voice.
exactly.
Yeah, fantastic.
Now, I thought this
Oh.
was interesting. I think you're one of the only people I've interviewed that hasn't told me that they're actually using a Mac with their podcasting setup. I find a lot of people are using Macs, and I'm not. I'm using a PC as well, and
Oh, John, congratulations.
yeah, I started out using VodBurner. I don't know if you looked at that software at all. I was curious if you had.
No, I have heard of it. No, I just
You haven't.
Audacity, and I use Pamela for Skype, and that's about it.
Yeah. Now you're obviously for your podcast. You're strictly doing just audio, right?
I am just doing audio. I've been thinking about video when I do the solo show, and then maybe you've inspired me here with the Google Hangouts, because I know that would be another way to repurpose content onto YouTube and Google and all the different.
Yeah,
But no,
exactly.
I'm
I
just
mean,
doing voice. Yeah.
yeah, that was what I decided to do because I kind of followed in the footsteps of another interview show host. Well, I guess several really because Andrew Warner does that and David
That's
Siteman
true.
Garland and
Hmm.
another fellow Mike Thomas of Mike from Maine. They all do video interviews, so I was like, okay, that was my plan too to use Skype,
Mm.
and I had problems with the software VodBurner, and that was, I lost an
Ah,
interview using that way back,
it's
and
frustrating.
I didn't realize I knew Audacity. I use that for all my editing, but
Mm.
if I were to do video, I don't know if I could do Audacity unless I had,
No, I
you know.
don't think so. Yeah, no, I would probably use what you're doing, Google Plus. But do you upload it to YouTube or you don't?
Yeah,
You
so
just
the way the Hangouts will work is when, like this recording, for example, right now, when we're done, it'll automatically upload it to my YouTube channel. And then I actually have a separate channel that's specifically called Voices of Marketing. It's a channel for the show. And then I have a
gotcha.
playlist with all the episodes so people could, if they wanted to go through and choose, they could pick. And it's a lot easier. And I mean, I'm not getting tons, but some of those, I think
Mm,
like, for example, the one with Pat Flynn, I think it's at about 200 downloads. And I mean, that's just on
yeah.
YouTube. And then there's also, more obviously coming from the podcast and the MP3 side of things, the audio. So it's a great way to kind of put yourself out there a little bit more.
No, thank you. And sorry for people listening. I can do a little bit of training tips here from John, so I appreciate it. But what if it's just you doing a Google Hangout?
I don't
Is
know. I
it,
mean, I think I
yeah,
could. I don't know if it'll let me record it
someone else on the
without
line?
someone else. But honestly, if I were to do something like that, I'd probably use in the PC world it's Camtasia, in the Mac world it's
Hmm.
ScreenFlow. Um,
Does it
basically,
matter how long it is, though, that YouTube will accept it if you upload it? I thought there was some sort of.
I think there is a limitation of 15 minutes, and you basically have to just sign some sort of agreement, and then they
Okay.
waive that.
Okay. There you
So
go. More training tips from John. Reversing the tables. Thank you.
yeah, I'm sure a lot of my audience has heard this before, but I mean, it is, like I said, I wanted to kind of make this more focused on podcasting, so anyone who's
Mm,
listening, hopefully these are some helpful tips. And I've made a few
yeah.
videos on Hangouts, and those have gone into that Podcaster's Paradise course we've mentioned because John
Yeah.
doesn't do Google Hangouts really, and
Mm,
at least in terms of recording purposes. So I thought that was good to add that because they've improved it a lot.
mm.
They've done a lot with the platform, and I think even in my tutorials they changed some of the buttons now. Like you have to schedule it as opposed to just like start it, and
Ah,
it's just kind of
yeah,
funny how often they change things. But
change is the only constant.
yeah,
Mm,
but I mean, I'm trying to think of anything else. I feel like we've covered a lot today.
yeah.
Is there any other
Yeah.
tips you might want to share, like in terms of podcasting, things that you've done that are working really well for you? I thought about diving into sponsorship, but I don't know if that's it's a whole other topic in itself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just learning about sponsorship. I was about to approach some companies, but I actually got approached. My sponsor is audiobooks.com, and
Okay.
I signed a 3-month contract with them. So I decided to just go straight with them. But the key was I did get approached by some health diet type companies,
Sure.
but it didn't feel right for me because my audience is more about stress, anxiety, energy management. And while of course what you eat is important, that wasn't my focus. Wasn't around putting you on
Yeah.
the green juice. And one of the questions I ask on the Live Your Life Now show is there a book you can recommend for the listener? Because I love reading. I'm addicted to books. My Amazon Kindle or my audiobooks.com app are out of control. So it was an appropriate question to ask because I believe books, inspire you and are knowledgeable. So I didn't want to take on a sponsor that wasn't going to add any value. It's just me talking about something I don't believe in, whereas
Right. Right.
books are just fabulous. So So yeah, so that's been a whole new experience, and just it's a different learning curve too to talk about a sponsor in your show as well. To take that 15 seconds or 30 seconds out, and you want it to be of interest to the listener and not just talking about blah blah blah. So,
Right,
yeah.
right. I know you kind of have to do things like I think I actually got accepted. I haven't really decided if I want to like pursue it a lot, but I got accepted into Audible, which is the Amazon. I think it's an Amazon company.
I heard about Audible. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, people. It sounds very similar. I mean, I'm not sure. I have to check out what it is you're doing, but they, basically it's free audiobooks. People could sign up and they get, I think it's like a month or something of free audio, and then they might go on to sign up for a membership or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, audiobooks.com is one of the competitors to Audible. So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Sounds like a pretty big one too if they have that domain.
Yes, indeed. So
now, did you approach them or did they find you?
They found me.
Oh,
so
really?
that was very humbling, or I was very excited by that, because I actually had put in my marketing plan in November to actually reach out to some companies, and then in early November they approached me, and I just really liked them. I knew that John Lee Dumas had them for Entrepreneur on Fire. I think Natalie Sisson has. I know they're open to podcasting, but I felt quite honoured to be, for them to approach me, and I think that was a lot because of my success within my first 8 weeks. And then they, that we talked about my download numbers, and while I would still be less than someone like Natalie, I definitely have got, large numbers, or I'm growing. So yeah. So,
awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, I think we've covered a lot. I know we're probably around like the 40-minute mark here.
Okay, great.
But I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to share. I know your website is. I see you have it in your bar here, but for anyone listening, if you want to announce your site so people can check that out.
Sure. Yeah, so my site is liveyourlifenowshow.com. Live Your Life Now Show is in my podcast, but that's the site as well. It will route to lizbrazier.com, but in New Zealand we say Z, not Z, so instead of me trying to say L-I-Z or L-I-Z, so liveyourlifenowshow.com. Come over there and you will be able to connect, and I love connecting with people. And just any last words or advice or thoughts is, just do it. Just give it a go, one step at a time. And when those negative voices come into our head, because they come into our head every day, because I don't believe that we can ever be, fearless. I actually think fearlessness is BS. Is what I just tell my clients is to just say the phrase, thanks for sharing. So anytime a negative thought comes into your head, or you can't do it, I just say to it, thanks for sharing, versus trying to fight with that thought, that thought in your voice in your head, because normally the voice just gets louder and louder, John, when you're trying to do that. So I just say thanks for sharing, and just keep going. So good luck, everyone. Awesome. And keep going.
All right, thanks.
Cheers.